Well, I'm going to bring the handheld around for people who have questions. Right? But, so yeah, if they want to go back and forth,
Yeah.
because then they need to like talk to each other about the future. Pass them like back and forth.
They actually.
Okay, let's go on in here.
Cool.
But that gives them,
So that's this one.
and you know how to
Come
turn
on
it
in here and don't bring the food in. All right.
and you can turn it on now.
And take a seat, folks, wherever you would like, and we'll, honey. How are you? So this is, yes, this is not just the board of the leadership of the church that makes stuff happen. I'm cleaning my language up, but I'll just do a quick. Deacon Tom.
Deacon Tom, every week,
Yeah,
writes a reflection.
This is his beloved Ron. We joke, and I said I wanted a Ron Tom. These two are just amazing. And I found mine in Reverend Marianne. He's the moderator of the board. So, and that's Reverend Marianne. And then this is Apostle Lyric. She's been a part of us since my installation. This is funny. We have a mutual friend in Albuquerque. And the mutual friend was going to come out, then couldn't come out. And she goes, oh my God, my bestie from high school lives out there. I'll have to. So Lyric came, Carly didn't, and she hasn't left. And so her mom is a bishop in a lineage of Carlton Pearson.
Wow.
So anyway, so she's as much a part of this church as has her own ministry, and so we support her own ministry, which is a common ministry. This is Lou Perez. He is our choir director. These two are big as thieves and are doing some fabulous.
Spilling drinks.
This is John Hilton. Is your beloved?
No, you've got that one.
Okay, John has been a part of MCC forever, MCC DC. And is a member here. He works on the garden. Which is beautiful. Yes. Sebastian or Seb or JD, whichever comes out first. We've known each other 20 plus years. He helped start the social media with Reverend Troy way back when. And he's our webmaster, along with Jeff, who is my office assistant, as well as all around does everything. This person has a deacon. Yes. And he also does a ton of social media. And I'll come back to them. And this is JB and Edwin. JB and Edwin. Head usher, JB and Edwin is one of our singers in the choir. They've been here forever. Chuck, you know Chuck Phelan, our treasurer. Michael Crane is the one on the keys that you see.
Oh, yes.
Our incredible music director. This is Dennis, who is also all around big time volunteer as well as an incredible musician. This is Manny. Yes. Manny is, he and I are like, we go way back. And he does my hair. He's like, I'm coming and doing your hair. And then coming on in, I just want to introduce, this is Leah. And this is her beloved Barb. With the passing of Paul, Leah is now the longest attending member of this church of 48. Not old, 48 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
49 years.
50 November.
Oh my God. And her beloved Barb. Devin, who's in there, is our vice moderator. So this is the motley crew. I asked them to attend not just the board because it was important for them to hear from y'all of what's happening in MCC and if they had any burning questions, which I don't know if they do or not, but for you to share with them and just to have a feast. So with that, amen.
Amen.
All right, let's take our seats, and when it comes in, I'll give you the honor of saying grace when all the food comes in. All right, have a seat. Okay. All right. Sounds good. Reverend Marianne. Yes. I'll let you sit with me.
Principal Staples.
I have to say, when Pat was talking about your story, it's a delight to see.
Look at it right now.
Exactly.
Yes. And she actually did me.
I know, just appreciate everybody.
I will be right back. house moderator.
Hi, Dennis.
Water. I'll take some water.
Water. Yeah, East Coaster.
Are you from Eggleston? Yes. Where?
Well, no, here. Yes.
Are you? Not from Rhode Island. With her and her friends and,
Get some lunch, I made it for you before I left, and get in the tub. And I'll tell you where the medicine is. You know, it might be 16.
That's why
Oh, you know, two kids. Okay. They're still very cool. And I said, how are the kids? And he said, well, the lad's 10. The girl is 13 and she knows everything. So, there you go. That's how it is. Oh, yes. Shall I do to the big
Yes,
voice?
our big voice.
All right, everyone. Shall we say grace together? If you've started, don't worry about it. Loving God, we are blessed today. We are blessed to be in this space, and we give thanks for the hundreds of people that have worshipped you in this space over the many years of this church. We give thanks for the great faithfulness of people who have stuck in this congregation through thick and thin, and those new people that they reach each day. We are grateful for this food. We pray a blessing on those who planted it, grew it, tended it, brought it to market, to those who bought it and created this magnificent feast. May we be blessed in our conversation as we eat together and see more of you in each other, in ourselves. In your many names, in the name of Jesus and through the power of the Holy Spirit, we pray. Amen. Amen.
and he gave it something.
Looks lovely. Absolutely. Yes. Great. Thank you. Right.
This looks really
It does.
It's always a thing. How are the children at school? Yeah, they're
There's a period where I know up to a certain point, people who are regularly here, I've learned some of our regulars, so I know at what point they kind of, if they haven't arrived by that time, they're probably not. So after that point, I don't have to like eagle-eye the cameras as much. I just like check in every so often. And that's normally finishing up around the time that security reading is happening. So I'm able to then pay attention to the rest of the service.
Because, you know, that is an important task and should be able to look at that.
Yes. So yeah, it took me probably a month or so to kind of figure out my rhythm with it. But once I got that figured out, I think basically what I'm doing. And I can still, I can do what I need to do. Most of the time on that, but also share in service.
We figured that out.
I've learned the personalities and the habits of some of our attendees over the years that I've been here prior to taking over the keeping an eye on the cameras. And so it's just kind of taking that information as I hear about it.
Yeah, because I know some churches have been able to get grants for it, which is good.
Who are, going through a whole lot of that.
Oh, okay, so that's over there.
Yes.
Yeah, you're there. You're in the right. Practically all of our-
How did y'all get together?
Yeah,
If
we're
I
an
might-
unlikely couple, aren't we?
If I might have, well, yeah, kind of like, we usually used to say, don't follow the one outside your zip code.
Yeah, but there's
Like,
that.
yeah, yours was continents.
So we were at an MCC event, and we'd known them for years, but we'd never actually met them. And then we were both, it was a mutual friend, we were both staying at the mutual friends for a week. In fact, Regina wasn't meant to be staying, she was going to be going, but her plans shifted.
Well, I was asked to stay, so I was able to.
But on the last night, and the thing is, you know, just like the two of you, you know, it's first go round. We haven't got time to waste really, so we were very clear with each other. So are we going to really investigate this area? Work hard at making sure that it's not, you know, and, you know, I was in second at the time, and I just said, well, Mum, I'm really leaving, I don't have money, so you can see me
Back in the room.
the UK.
I was very happy because I love to travel. I was not spending money in the US, so I was happy to go to it wasn't even on my radar actually. I'd be in London, I thought I might go to the West End Seashore someday, but outside of that, not really. So I thought I was happy to. Yes, I made plans for that. Yes, that was it.
Now we're in the visa process, so.
Yeah, so it was two, yeah, we had two already. So the first was and it was December 26th. Here is in the US. Not this particular theater, which is my show. I have played in a different shows here on stage. So I did a tour of the show. There was a bit of water, yes.
everybody.
This is about
Synthesizer.
so Mary Ann's been the nomination for the.
I've read this one.
79.
Normally don't. Grab my ice, I don't even like
And one of the down two contact stuff like that.
it's like a personality sound. They have coconut chicken, yeah.
So happy for you.
Some American things that are really delicious. I'm not even trying. So I was saying, we had a speaking of,
What you were doing is fixing a tire.
And then I'll hug, well, maybe.
Oh my God.
You know, graphic novel. I learned this place. Oh, so you know how I eat.
I've seen it. I always threw it in a trough.
Well, thank you. What's the difference, right?
We have some color in our life.
Literally, they need my language.
And I've got
Well, leave that. Yeah, let's just open it on. Got space for one.
They sell bananas. And it's
We'll start with the Q&A in about 5 minutes, okay?
You're the one. Okay. We'll find one. Yeah. And an apple.
So how are you doing, guys?
I'm doing better than struggling with my health and diabetes at my own hand.
Right.
And,
That's weird. Is that your own house?
yeah, you know, I figured out I'm not the same. And I'm my friend tells me, this you woke up, I'm glad you woke up. And I mentioned this to some people yesterday. Excuse me. Yeah, the laminated sugar.
Yeah. We don't need you high up.
So do you use stevia? Yes.
Try to figure out.
And I try to do no sugar. Because I'm a sugar addict. So 0, You know, so from the and what they used to do was 20 years. And I have but what I did, I worked in not they did some actual orange white dye. I hope I collected the lump sum. And so the actual amount was like $60,000. But they times 10.
Oh,
You know, so that was now because I left so long ago, and we go to different places, pay rates then, it actually reduces the I'm grateful for what I'm getting. Until that house is still being done. So I actually asked for a lump sum. So that house is coming up.
that's wonderful.
Yeah. Get the house fixed.
Give you some peace of mind.
Yeah.
Pat was saying that you might be doing some bench purchases.
Yeah. I'll take care of her.
Well, folks, we're gonna, continue to eat, dessert's gonna come out, and, while that's happening, Reverend Cecilia's gonna, answer. I'm gonna, there we go. I'm going to start to go ahead and use this just because we do have about 5 people who are with us on Zoom right now. Hello, everybody. And we're really excited. I just want to say, you know, I've known Reverend Cecilia just from conferences over the course of the years. And I'm going to say in the last 4 or 5 years, you've been... Yeah, go ahead. There we go.
Coming up 5 years.
5 years. Is on? It's on. Okay. And one of the things that I can tell you, and I told her when we had a few minutes alone before lunch, is that I've been in this denomination for 40 years, and this is the first time. I mean, I've loved all the moderators. Don't get me wrong. But the thing that Reverend Cecilia brings to the table is no politics and a whole bunch of caring and compassion. Yeah, yay! And resourcing and to try to find out, you know, who we are and how can we help, because it's really about, you know, the greater good. And so before we get into it, she's going to speak in just a second. Where's Mr. Lane? Kitchen. Okay, Lane and Gio, do not leave the room. Gio, do not leave the room. Gio, do not leave the room. I want us to give a huge hand to these gentlemen, Lane and Gio and Seb. Devin and Blue, wherever they are, also helped. Devin is there and Blue. So thank you. That was absolutely exquisitely delicious. So thank you, thank you.
And so with that, the reason, so when she said she was coming out here and would love to meet, and I'm like, yay. And then she said, you know, if your board wants to meet, and I went, yay. And then I'm like, yeah, it's not going to be just the board. And then I'm going to tell you the reason why I've told you, but I'll tell you again, as I said to her, you know that this is not this church is not just about the pastor, and it's not just about the board, as exquisite as the 7 of us are. However, this church does what it does because of the leadership, and which is all of you and those of you who are online. And I just really, and those that support the leadership as well. I want to acknowledge Barb and Steve, the spouses to two of our board members who are here. So I thank you for taking the time to be here. With that, I won't take any more of her time. It is indeed a pleasure and an honor to introduce to you the Reverend Elder Cecilia Eggleston, who is with us from England, and take it from there and tell folks about you, about what has been happening under your leadership and what you see and want in the future. So go for it.
Thank you very much. Oh, it's on now. Hello to everybody who's online. I appreciate you taking the time. And hello to everybody who's in the room to give up your Monday lunchtime. I very much appreciate that. And it's good to be able to put faces to names. My wife, Orgina, is with us today, and we have worshipped with you a couple of times online, and it's wonderful now to be able to see the space and to put names to faces, and that's really, really wonderful. Just to tell you a little bit about me, I was born in the north of England, Sheffield, if any of you know your cutlery or your steel, famous steel city. And I'm number 6 out of 7, large Catholic family. And when I came out to my family when I was 13, which wasn't the best idea I ever had in some ways, but it got it out of the way early. But I stayed in the Catholic Church, very devout, you go to Mass every Sunday, very involved. And as a girl, of course, couldn't serve on the altar, couldn't become a priest, all of that. And I eventually discovered MCC in my mid-20s, and it was fantastic, as a woman, first of all, that I could be part of worship. I could preach, I could celebrate communion, and to be fully embraced and celebrated as a lesbian was just amazing. And so I have been in MCC for longer than I haven't. Like the majority of my adult life, I've been in MCC, and I've been very blessed with all the opportunities that it's given me. And to all of you who are lay people, being a lay person is fantastic, and there are so many ministries, as you know, in the local congregation, but also at a denominational level for lay people. I was a lay district coordinator, and I was a lay elder also. And in our structure, you can become moderator as a lay person. So, it's really important that those of you who are in the congregation, who are in leadership, who are active in ministry, just know how important you are. And one of the things that we want to get better at is really providing more training and more support for our lay leaders. And that's one of the things that we'll be looking at in the next year or so. So, as you're talking as the board or as your ministry team leaders meet, what training would you like? What resources would you like? Because we value you. You have a lay delegate. Who's your lay delegate? Have you got one at the moment?
No, we don't.
Okay.
The reason why is because there hasn't been a conference.
Oh, right, great.
And so, as I was going to ask you, and if you could include what conference is about, and about the one coming up next year.
Certainly, I'll do that. Yeah. So any ideas you have for training, etc., how can we help you? Because that's what we want to do. I'll give you a very quick overview of the structure of the denomination. Some of you will find that interesting, because like me, you're into structures and systems. Some of you can just just have happy thoughts while I discuss this. Eat your dessert and enjoy it. All right, so at your local church level, you have your board that's elected, right? At a denominational level, you have the governing board, and they are elected too. They are volunteers like you serving at a denominational level. 4 of them are clergy and 4 of them are laity. And it's intentionally designed like that because when you're looking at risk management and finances and all of those things, you need people who've got really good experience and understanding. And those of us who train as clergy may not have that experience, so it's very important, right? You have your pastor and your pastoral care folk at a church level. At a denominational level, there's the Council of Elders. Reverend Elder Alejandro is here, who has served for 3 years on the Council of Elders. And they're the spiritual and pastoral leaders of the denomination. And so they may issue statements on various different issues. If a church is going through a difficult time, one of the elders can support your pastor, can support the leadership. And they are the people who offer wisdom to me as the moderator and also provide challenge and encouragement to where we're going as a denomination. And they too are all volunteers. And you are part of the process of selecting those two. And then we have the MCC staff who are paid, and they are paid to help and support you. Reverend Kathy Alexander is responsible for all our clergy, from cradle to grave. So if you're considering ordination or you're frantic to retire from ordination and everything in between, Reverend Kathy would look after you. Reverend Dexter Brecht heads up the team that support churches, congregations. So is there something that you need, you're not sure about? Reverend Dexter's the person for that. But also, we really want to learn from you, and it's been fantastic to listen to Reverend Pat this morning, all the different things that are going on in the church, the way that you've really embraced being online and on site for worship and for community building, and how you engage everybody in different ways is fantastic. The outreach that you do with your food pantry. We worshipped with you online last week, and we heard the testimony from that young person who just talked about this community holding them and their boyfriend as they struggled in life, and having been discarded by their own family, finding this family and how important that is. So I know sometimes life in a local congregation gets tough, and sometimes you just think, well, we're opening the doors again this week. Why? And the why is, when you stick it out for 40-odd years, the lives that you change, the lives that are touched by your ministry in ways you will never know, because the good you do sends out ripples. And you will meet someone in 10 years' time who went, oh, I saw you on Facebook, and because of that, I did this. So, on those days when you feel disheartened, don't forget that. Because the person who gets some food out of your food pantry after they've been to an AA meeting here and they go back out, they don't care how good your service is. They don't care how big your congregation is. They don't care whether you've paid the mortgage or not on this space. What they care about is that you cared enough to have food so that they could go home and be satisfied. So remember that too. That's what makes a difference. So my job, officially, I'm the Chief Executive Officer. I am the visionary leader and the official spokesperson of the denomination. I chair the governing board, I facilitate the Council of Elders, and I oversee the staff. And then in the afternoon, I have a really long lie down and do it again tomorrow. And Reverend Pat was just asking about conference. Once every 3 years, we have general conference, and that's where all the MCCs around the world are invited to gather. Now, you have your member Eric, who's in Rwanda, right? And you know that it's going to be nigh on impossible for him to attend a general conference for lots of very obvious reasons. And general conference has always been the place where the business of the denomination is done, right? So just like you have your annual congregational meeting and you vote on important issues, that's what the business meeting does. So we learned a lot during the pandemic, and we had our first totally online general conference. We had a transformational weekend, and then we had a separate business meeting all online. So we learned a lot from that. So this conference that we're having in July next year, I think it's the 3rd to the 5th, something like that, of July, be in Scottsdale, Arizona, which apparently in July is freezing cold. So the staff have told me I need to bring my thermals and a fur coat because it's just going to be terrible. That conference is open to absolutely anyone, right? It's absolutely anyone, and you know, you don't have to be a member of MCC, you don't have to be on the leadership, it's open to anyone, and that's going to be a real opportunity for worship together, for learning together, for making connections, to meeting up with old friends and making new ones. And that's the real focus of it. It's an opportunity for us to rejoice in being together, to learn together, and to really share what we have learned. So if you are a ministry team leader, if you are someone who's passionate about something, and you want to meet with other people and learn from them and share what's going on for you, that transformational weekend next July in person in Arizona is for you. So have a think about how you might get there, and there will be opportunities to support individuals. We're working on that. So the business meeting will be online. So where we do the business of voting for members of the governing board, my term as moderator will finish next year in July, and so we're going to not answer that question publicly. So, so we're all in discernment, and that means that churches around the world can participate in the business meeting, because previously, if you could get to usually America, you had the money to get there, you could get through the visa system, then you got to vote. Well, you know, times are different now. We can do that all online. So everybody will be able to vote. And the advantage is, therefore, if your lay delegate, when you get one, isn't the best person to go to a whole thing about worship and learning experiences, then the church doesn't need to send them to the in-person gathering. I mean, it's great if they go, but the idea is, you know, you might want to start up a youth ministry. If you're only going to pay as a church to send one person, send the person who's going to help start the youth ministry, don't send the lay delegate. So that's the idea behind it. But it'll be a great experience, and it will be hybrid as much as we can make it. So again, you know, we're in the learning process, just like you are in a local church, about how do we use all this fantastic technology we have to make sure that we connect with people around the world and get the resources to as many people as we can, and to learn from each other. You know, I've made notes on what Reverend Pat has told me this morning about what you're doing, and I will be sharing that with the relevant staff. And, you know, when I come across a church that's struggling in some of the areas that you're excelling in, I can say, well, get in touch. You know, in the same ways, things that you may be thinking, well, we'd love to do this, but we don't know how, then there will be other congregations that can help you. Because, you know, that's why we're part of a bigger movement, a bigger denomination. So we've got those links across, and we can share the resources and the ideas that we have.
Awesome. And just as an aside, I'll add this about conference. I remember when I went to my first one, because as many of you know, I started in a very small, like, where there was, I think, 10 people in MCC Stockton when it was around. And the first time I went to a conference, it was a local one, but when I went, and 500 people maybe, and I was floored that there were other people that were like me and not like me, but we all had MCC. And the worship experiences alone are off the charts.
Yeah.
Really. Are off the charts. And then when I went to my first general conference, I was like, Whoa. And I'll talk about the thing about the general conference this year, and I'm so glad that it's in here as well. I am not. It's drivable, and I think we could like get a van and take a lot of people and share rooms and stuff. And there's a lot of music to our musical folks. There's a lot of different musical things that are going on. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
And we really looked at that. You know, we listened to the feedback from local churches, and the way that these conferences used to be organized is we used to need to sign a 9-year deal with a chain, you know, with the Hilton or with the Fairmont, and we were then in there for 9 years. Well, those places are pricey, and if we didn't get as many people at the conference that we thought we were going to, we ended up with a very hefty bill. You know, and we don't want to give money to the Hilton that we could be using for something else. So, you know, we're going to be in Embassy Suites. So, you know, you can get 4 people, 5 people in a suite quite comfortably. It's very modest room rate. And although the conference itself will only be 3 days long, there'll be programming before and afterwards. So if you wanted to come earlier or stay later, there will be things to do. But the sort of like the official bit of the conference will be those 3 days.
And one last thing I'll just say about the conferences. I remember the last time there was it was in Florida when I went. It was fascinating because there was a workshop being done by a group of 20-something, under 30, or early 30s and under, from Australia, giving a workshop on how to reach out to those who, you know, are in the next generation.
Yeah.
And it was fabulous to get this information, not just from people of a different age, but of a different culture, but what they shared was something that was able to be translated into. So thank you. So with that, one of the things that we really wanted is any questions or comments or things that you would like to share with Reverend Cecilia. If you'd raise your hand, Manuel will bring the mic. He's giving you a rest for today. JB's the one who brings the microphone to all of our folks on Sunday for gratitude. So we wanted you just to receive today, putting him to work. Anybody, just raise your hand, you want to share something or ask a question? Oh, please.
Hello, my name is Steve McIntyre. I'm Chuck's husband, Chuck Phelan. And I was just thinking, I remember years ago when I went to the March on Washington, it was kind of a very last minute thing. And what they had done was put up a bulletin board of people who lived in DC who had extra rooms for rent, or maybe they were just volunteering. So I ended up getting contacting them and finding a room right in the heart of everything in DuPont Circle. And my hosts were very gracious, 2 very gracious men. And so maybe something like that is a possibility for also mitigating hotel costs for people in Phoenix. Is it in Phoenix that it's going to happen?
No, it's in Scottsdale, and sadly
Scottsdale.
we don't have a local congregation there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a great idea though for other events, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe doing some kind of bulletin board for people who are willing to host people, and that might reduce the cost.
Okay, thank you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Another conference that's going to be coming up at the end of July, which is in the United States, is the PAD conference, People of African Descent, and that will be in Detroit. I think it's 27th to the 29th, and it coincides with Black Pride in Detroit. MCC Detroit's very involved in that, and Orgina is part of PAD, so if that's something that would interest you, please get in touch with Orgina as well, ask her. It's the first in-person PAD conference that we've had for quite a long time, so it's, we'll be there, and it will be an amazing event.
And I just got an email about it, so if you're interested, I'll forward it. Dennis.
I was just wondering if we had any national directory of MCCs and that was accessible to all, because I was recently in Norfolk, Virginia, and discovered the MCC there, and it was absolutely excellent pastor. And it seems like there doesn't seem to be a lot of synchronization between the various chapters. And I was just wondering, it's like, why that was, and if there is any sort of national directory or any sort of something that gives the organization a glance of who's who in what space. I've never been to Founders, and that's a fault on my own. But I was wondering, it's like, what if I was in Austin, or what if I was in, say, Phoenix, or in Oklahoma City, or whatever? Where would I go?
Okay. Well, the denomination has 2 websites. Okay. So for people, I don't know whether you have like a visitors table here or anything like that, but you know, many churches, if you're brand new for the first time, there's a whole place where you can sit and look at the information and find out more about the church before you get it. Okay, so we have a website called visitmcc.com, and if you go to that, all the churches around the world are listed. So they're listed by country, and then in the case of the United States, they're listed by state. And then we also have a website called Inside MCC. And Inside MCC is for people like you. You're already inside MCC, and you may want different information. So the church treasurer may want different information from someone who's never heard of MCC and wants to know what we stand for. So we have 2 different websites, and both of those you'll be able to get information about different churches. And if you're ever in doubt, just get Reverend Pat just to email someone, and we can tell you straight away. The challenge we have always is keeping up to date with churches' information. You know, sometimes we only find out on Facebook that a pastor has left, that the church is closed. There's something else. I mean, you know, in all seriousness. So, you know, Reverend Pat said, how many churches have we got? It's like, well, at the moment, I think we've got 135, but ask me again tomorrow, you know. So again, Devon, I know you're acting as the clerk for the board at the moment. Any information, any changes, please let us know, because then we can support you better if we know who to contact. So, yeah.
A follow-up question.
And so you were talking about we have 130 some odd churches, and we have one site that lists all of their information. Is that a sort of a central repository that people can simply submit information to? See, that seems to be a problem. That seems to be a problem we were talking about. Was somebody leaves, the information doesn't get passed up, and it seems like a housekeeping kind of.
It is, and it's a real challenge, you know, and it's something that we're constantly working on. So one of the reasons why it's really important that we stay in touch with our local congregations is so that you do get in touch with us, right? Any large organisation, we don't expect you to understand which bit, but we should make the first, any door that you open, get you to the right person. Right? So if you email anybody on staff, if you go on either of those websites, there are contact details for you to get in touch with folk. So that's the easiest way of doing it, is going on there. Or, you know, if you go on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, the denomination's on Facebook, there's a laity and clergy page, there's a clergy group. So all of those are all different ways of getting in touch with us. And then all the contact details for all the churches are on the websites. So this how to send the information to us on there, as well as you being able to find the information out. And you're right, it's a constant, how can we do this better? Yeah.
Excellent. And if you forget either of those, you can always go to mccchurch.org.
Yeah.
And that's 3 C's. And when that comes up, you'll have both websites right there.
That's
you
it.
can click.
Yeah.
Okay. Other. Yes.
Thank you so much for coming.
I'm glad to be here.
And visiting us. I want to piggyback on what he's saying, because the last 2 or 3 years, our job has had me traveling, and I've always tried to attend the MCCs in
Wonderful.
whatever city I was in, and participate in whatever activities they had. But I think the website should be like updated maybe every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah.
Because I went to a wrong address in Chicago.
Yeah.
It was a church, but it wasn't MCC.
All right. Yes, well, thank you for that. And again, you know, it takes all of us. So you had that experience. If you came back and said to Reverend Pat, "Whew, that information was wrong," then we find out about it. Otherwise, we don't know it's wrong. Because in order to check that it's right, we've got to check with 150 churches every 3 months, all the way around the world. You still there? You still there? You still there? You know, and people don't like that. The clergy are asked once a year, "Are you still there?" And they don't like it. So, yeah, but it takes all of us, and we'd rather hear the same piece of information 5 times than not get it and have someone like you, you know, and you're an MCCer, but just imagine you're a suicidal teenager and this is your last stop.
Yes.
That's what we don't want.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right, okay.
Thank you, John. Leah, press across the table. Yeah, there we go.
Hi there.
Hello.
I'm extraordinarily grateful for MCC, and the world's a lot better. A lot of the world's a lot better now than it was way back then.
Mhm.
In spite of some setbacks, it's still really pretty cool, you know. I've listened to you off and on, and those of you who just are in a bad mood or whatever, put her on YouTube. You'll listen a while, you'll feel better, guarantee it.
Oh, thank
So
you.
I put something she had on. She's sitting there on the couch nearby the computer, and she enjoyed it enough. Everyone knows she doesn't come too often. You want to come? Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. Thank you for staying. You know, this is, people like you allow the next generation and the next generation and the next generation to come. Because if you chucked in the towel, if you said, I've had enough of that, there wouldn't be a place for the next people to come. So thank you for your great steadfastness and faithfulness, because that's so important. And thank you for coming.
I have just a question that's absolutely nosy.
No, you carry on.
You don't have to answer, but I looked it up. I couldn't find anywhere how old you were.
Oh, I'm 61. I'm 61. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I'm 61. 1962 I was born. Yeah.
Okay, just curious. Thank
sexy.
you.
My turn.
Okay.
So I'm relatively new member, but I've gone to MCC for many years in San Diego and in Boston, and you know, but I don't know how to explain it to straight people.
Right.
So I go to MCC, and you know, I kind of stop there, and they're like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "Church," you know.
Yeah.
And what is that? I mean, I feel very naive. I am naive. What's our mission statement? I don't know what to say.
Yeah. Well, I think, you know, as always, you play to the audience. It's like, what's going to make a difference, you know, to them? So when I'm trying to explain it to other church folk, you know, if I'm in a room of other church ministers, I will say MCC is an international Christian denomination founded in and reaching beyond the LGBTQIA community, because that's what makes us unique. And then if they want to ask any questions after that, they can, you know. Otherwise, if you don't want to get into the ins and outs of it because you're not quite sure how safe you might be saying stuff, you can say, you know, we are an intentionally inclusive church because we believe that God's love is for absolutely everyone. That's right. And then that's quite a safe way of saying the same thing. And if someone's got more questions, they may think about that, because there's not many churches will go, well, we're exclusive and we think everyone else is going to hell, but a lot of them teach that, right? But when you say you are intentionally inclusive, that starts to, people have to think a bit more about that. So those are 2 ways that I explain it. Yeah.
Excellent question. Anybody else?
A question I have on what's going through my mind is, you know, there's the gay church MCC, then you got gay Catholics, then you got gay Lutheran, and you know, there's visions, Black Church, and then there's unity of Black Church. I think it's a good idea to have a retreat where all of us could have just, not politics, but just activities to build us spiritually.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And it's, you know, it's where it might get organised. So, you know, you might want to do that on a local level, because I know Reverend Pat's very involved in the interfaith network here. You know, it's possible to do it on a denominational level. It's just, yeah, it takes more thinking about, you know. Sometimes it's hard enough to organise our own folk without organising other people. But you will have heard of the Fellowship of Affirming Ministers, Fellowship of Affirming Ministry, yes? Ministries, which is headed up by Reverend Bishop Yvette Flunder. And several MCCers, ourselves included, went to their conference, and you know, people from TFAM will come to the MCC conference. So there's some of that goes on. It's just not formal, I suppose. Yeah, but it's a great idea. The more people we can have in a room to learn from each other and grow together, the better, really. Yeah.
Got one more question. So when I'm talking to these people,
oh yes,
they're like, well, are you like Lutheran or Baptist, or, you know, what do you follow? You know, which Bible do you use, the Old Testament or the New Testament? Or, I don't know. I mean, they ask me things I don't really know, so I just say, well, you should come and find out.
Perfect. That's the perfect answer. The perfect answer. Well, the thing is, Metropolitan Community Churches is its own denomination. So, you know, we are a denomination like the Baptists, like the Methodists, like the Catholics. You know, we're...
made up of all of them.
Yeah, and people have come to us from other different places. So, you know, if you think all the different denominations are like all the different teams in a soccer league or in a baseball league, you know, we're all playing the same game, which is Christianity or spirituality, or but we have different ways of playing. You know, any of you follow sport, you know, they're always talking about the formation. Oh, he's going for this and he's trying for that pitch, or he's doing that, you know, because they want to win. They want to, you know, succeed. And so even though everybody's playing baseball, they try different tactics, they train in different ways, etc., etc. And church denominations are the same. We all want to serve God, love each other, but some of us are more Bible-based, some of us are more Alleluia-based, some of us are more smells and bells. You know, it depends where you are. MCC is this fantastic melting pot where we've got all the richness from all those different traditions, and it's how we manage to make that our own. And, you know, and that's a wonderful thing. And, you know, in your worship service, if it's done really well, you will have bits of it that you recognize from your own tradition, even if it's not the whole service, because you go, oh, yeah, that speaks to me, because that's where I came from. Yeah.
Anybody over here? Pat the Apostle, did I see a question?
I was itching my head.
Oh, that'll do. I'll take that.
I was thinking.
All right, we'll go with Deacon Tom and then to you. Go ahead, Deacon.
Yeah, I'm following up that not only as I've been to different MCCs and each one is unique.
Oh,
so it's not like, oh, we do that. No,
that's right.
Every one. Well, we went to Nashville. It's very Baptist oriented. Out here, a little more Catholic oriented. But each one's a blend of what their community. That's why it's Metropolitan Community Church. It depends on each individual community, so it's very hard to generalize.
That's
Everyone
right.
has their own flavor.
Yeah. And as a denomination, there's very little that we say you should do, right? The bylaws which govern the denomination are written by the congregations and the clergy of the denomination at General Conference. They're not written by secret squirrels under the stairs, right? So if it's in the bylaws, it's because you all voted for it, right? But there's nothing to say you have to worship on a Sunday. There's nothing to say how your worship should be. There is a requirement to do communion once a week, and there's the intention that the communion table should be open. No? And so there's a huge amount of flexibility, and we expect inclusive language. And what inclusive language will be like will depend on lots of things. We are a church that was founded in the English language. So we thought we had all sorts of brilliant ideas about inclusive language, which are really hard to manage in other language structures. And our churches are finding ways of doing that. Reverend Alejandro, so helpful in explaining to me about how the Spanish language works and what the default is in Spanish, which makes words masculine, and how in MCC, we are remodeling that language that we use in churches so that it is inclusive in the way that we want it to be.
When you were talking about like the directory and all of that, my mother, she was the overseer for the state of New Mexico.
Oh, fantastic.
And so I don't know if maybe that would be, I don't know if we have that for MCC, UCC, like a state overseer that would kind of just keep an eye on all the churches for that state to kind of help with things like that. I know for her it was, she enjoyed doing that, but that would just be almost like a suggestion for me if that was something that we could do, that take some of the weight off of you all. Yeah. And also thank you for coming, I know that was a long journey, and I don't get on planes, so I thank you all again for being able to get on that plane. But thank you all for really being here, because it says a lot about you coming here to sit with us and express to us some of the things, not only that you want for the church, but in the direction that we're heading. So thank you so much for doing
that. Oh, thank you. Thank you.
The networks.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right. It would be much better if the world was divided up in ways that made it easier. And so that's what we're actually doing. So in MCC, we have networks. In MCC, when I was elected in 2019, MCC was a bit frayed around the edges. We'd had quite a difficult time. We were financially bankrupt. We were insolvent. And so there's been a whole load of things coming on. We had huge issues around racism. We were financially bankrupt. And then, because I hadn't got quite enough to do, we had a global pandemic. So it's been quite the ride. And one of the things that we wanted to pay attention to is exactly what you were saying. How can we gather churches together more effective at a more local level? And so we had these things called networks, and some of them worked well and some of them did not. And in some places, it just never started up. So we're in the process of redoing that. And I think California is one of the areas where we're still looking to see how we can create a good network. So again, this is another opportunity to be involved. Many, many people are very content to have ministry at a local church level, and that's absolutely fine. It's really important, in fact. And there are some people who perhaps like just looking over the fence and seeing what's over the fence, and have a broader view. And so we will be looking for people to head up the network team. And the networks are about communication, they're about connection, they're about relationship, they're about resourcing. So, if you hear that something's going on in a church and they're having a rough time, we're not expecting the network leaders to go in and sort it out, but we are expecting the network leaders to say, oh, do you know that this has just happened? And so we can support the pastors, we can get the elders in to support, the congregations, and, if something needs to happen around finance or anything else, we can get the governing board involved. So you're absolutely right. Having those sort of connections on a more local level, it's definitely it. So if anybody wants to know more about networks, if anybody would be interested in perhaps doing that in this area of the United States, then please let me know. Dexter is responsible for networks. He's doing a fantastic job.
Do we have anybody on Zoom who wants to ask it?
We have 4 people, but they don't have any questions.
Perfect. Okay, great. All right, one last question. Is there one last question or comment? Ron, did you want to, as our moderator, to share anything?
It's something from the Secret Squirrel.
Or from Bambino?
Celia's one of my dearest friends. They never met.
She was online. Yeah.
She's Christy's partner. Anyway,
So Christy online too, just now?
Hi, Christy.
There you go. Let's talk this one.
She and I go shopping sometimes, and she wanted you to have us.
Oh, how wonderful. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. There you go.
And again, I didn't get to Beijing, so it's not.
All right. I mean,
Okay.
yes, is it okay?
Yeah, we absolutely.
Oh, this is beautiful. There you go. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, isn't that lovely? Thank you, everyone. So splendid.
Cecilia.
Yeah.
She points.
And just says, get that. Well, it's a good job you've got a shopping companion, isn't it? Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, our one last question, Reverend Mary Ann.
When you were originally applying for this position, I know a lot of prayer and discernment goes into it, and you talked about your vision. How close or how much more have you seen and experienced than you originally anticipated?
Well, that's a really good question. So, first of all, those of you that don't know my story, I felt called to be moderator for a very long time. And it stayed in my heart and different setbacks along the way, but it just felt like still it was the thing for me to do. And I think what I hoped for was that we would be more intentionally global. There could have been a point in MCC's history where we said, you know what, practically, we'd be much better off being a United States-based organization, and that would be it. And I felt that in electing me as moderator, the majority of people went, we want to be more global. We want to be less US focused. And so from that point of view, I feel like we are making progress. You know, we're investing in ministry in South America in different ways. You know, we have a Cuban elder for the first time. We have an elder from South Africa, our first African elder. You know, we have our second Australian elder. So, you know, our staff is more diverse. You know, we have Reverend Elder Hector Gutierrez is in Mexico. I'm in the UK. We've just appointed Christopher Celeste, who's in the Philippines. You know, so we are becoming more global. I think what I couldn't have anticipated, and Reverend Pat and I were talking about this a lot this morning, is just how ministry has changed and how, you know, the opportunities that are opening up for being online, being connected with people around the world in an intentional way and making online community. When I first became moderator, I talked with Reverend Wanda Floyd, who is responsible for helping our emerging churches to grow and develop. And I said, you know, if you want an NA meeting or an AA meeting, you can go on a website and it will tell you where there is one anywhere in the world online at any given time. And I said, that's what I would really like for MCC. So it's like, this is a prayer ministry over here, it's in Swahili, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you know, Pacific time, you can get online. And I think that's in our vision for 2030, which you can also find on the website, you know, that digital ministry, that global piece, and actually having the global south be equitable with the global north. You know, again, we've been a very white, Western, Northern Hemisphere denomination, and yet the majority of the world is not that. In the US, I don't know what's happening here in this particular country, in this particular city, but one of our other congregations got in touch and said, you know, by 2020, the Latinx population in this city is going to be on a par with the white population, and we really want to serve that community, and we don't know how to start. So, you know, and I was talking to somebody yesterday who said, he was talking about mainstream churches in the US, but he was saying, you know, if you look at the demographics, churches are going to be Spanish-speaking, predominantly brown-skinned, and more Pentecostal. And so, you know, you are very good at serving your own community, looking at the needs and seeing what's there, what you need to do, and how you need to adapt. And I think for all of the MCCs around the world, we need to be doing that. So we're getting there. There's always more to do. But it's, I think the only other thing I'd say is I think MCC had a real crisis of confidence. And with every church that says we are now opening and affirming, somehow or another that's become a dent to us. Instead of going, wow, look what we did. Amen. Right? You know, when women's rights started to happen, you know, I don't think the suffragettes went, oh no, they're giving us rights now. You know, it's like, wow, we got rights. So, you know, the fact that there are opening and affirming Lutheran churches, or there are opening and affirming Methodist churches, is great. And we are still uniquely us. And so how can we really step out in pride and in faith and saying, and this is what MCC offers, and this is who we are called to serve. Because there's room for everyone. And that, I think, for me is the exciting piece. And when, you know, just hearing what you are all doing here in the big and small ways, you know, you are making a huge difference. And that's, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we're all here for, is to serve God and to serve God's people. And you are doing a fantastic job of that. So.
I have one last question.
Yes.
Now I get the microphone. You have spoken so eloquently about your role and the denomination and how it works and how it's changing and how it's growing. And my curiosity is, how has this role that you've stepped into in these last few years changed you in your walk with Jesus?
Wow, good one. Well, I'm a bit grayer than I was.
He can fix it.
All right, so yeah, so in Northern Ireland, I don't know how many of you know the history of Northern Ireland, but Northern Ireland was effectively in a civil war for a long time called the Troubles, and that was all the way through my childhood and growing up. You know, bombs went off in England and people were killed, and you know, the violence was terrible. And there's a retreat centre in the north of Northern Ireland called the Corrymeela Centre, and it became the centre for having dialogue between Catholics and Protestants. Now, bear in mind, in the city of Belfast, there was a wall built between a Catholic neighbourhood and a Protestant neighbourhood. Right? So you think of the Berlin Wall, you think of, you know, other things. This was huge. So to have people who'd never met a Catholic or never met a Protestant sitting in the same room was extraordinary. And going back to the networks, the European network had its gathering at the Corrymeela Centre last year. And I picked up their daily prayer book. And in there's a prayer for courage. And every day I pray that prayer for courage. Because whether we are trying to change the world, looking outwards, or whether we're trying to do something internally, like having the business meeting online, these are significant shifts. And, you know, they may not seem important to you if you don't care, but if you do care, these are huge. And so, for me, I think it's been about really having courage. It's about recognizing that in the midst of it, God still is. You know, and that Orgina and I have prayer time every morning. It's such an important part of who we are as a couple. And part of the prayer is about things happening in divine order. And so it's like, okay, this is, we're on this path and it'll work out as it works out. And that's not to negate free will or anything like that, but a sense that God is in the mix. And, so there are things going on that I don't know about because God is at work. And do you sing Waymaker here? Waymaker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness, my God, that is who you are. And there's lines in that says, even when I don't see it, you're working. Even when I don't feel it, you're working. And that is a huge sustainer to me. So I think those are, having courage, trusting God are the things that I think I've gone deeper in. Do you want to say anything about this? Seeing as you're the person who watches me crumble on a regular basis.
Let's hear it for the spouses.
Yes! Yes!
I think the biggest thing that has been wonderful to observe with Cecilia during this time has been allowing the changes to happen, allowing shifts and changes internally to happen, even when they challenge everything that you've ever been, everything that you've ever known, but being open and willing for those changes to happen. So, yeah.
Wow.
And I really would like to pay tribute to you, Orgina, and to everyone who is a spouse of someone who is active in ministry, because, that is such a precious gift. And so thank you. Couldn't do what we do. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, friends, I want to respect their time, and I want to thank you again for coming out and asking your questions, getting to know more. And I think this has also been a fabulous time now that we're out of COVID. We had talked. We're in our new normal, right?
That's right.
Things have shifted that we're probably never going to go back to, and that's good because some things needed to go. We're stepping forward into our next chapter. And the fact, for instance, that conference in person is going to be happening on site in a year, it's perfect timing for us to get not that we're not connected, but even more so with really the core of this church, which is MCC.
Yeah,
so.
and it's about, I read somewhere about, worship on a Sunday being about filling you up so that you can go on for the rest of the week. And conference is about that too. It kind of fills you up. And like you say, the worship is extraordinary so that you go out with the fuel that you need to continue. So I look forward to seeing you there.
Right.
Hopefully some of you.
And thank you, as always, to in the back, Chuck and Jeff, who
Thank you everyone online.
make stuff happen. Thank you, everybody. They'll be here for just a few more minutes to say hey, get a hug, and we'll be back again on Sunday. So, amen.
Thank you for hosting us, for making us so welcome. Thank you for everything that you do, and thank you, Reverend Pat. Woo!